Welcome in ISGAP. Today our guest is Mr. Abderrahim Chhaibi, our colleague, who's going to speak about the anti-Semitism in the Arabic countries and in the Middle East, especially after the incident of 7th of October. Also, Mr. Ibrahim is going to speak about the anti-Semitism through the ideology of the Islamic point of view, which is evolving unfortunately, in some of the Arabic countries, especially in some countries that has a relationship with anti-Semitism since for years and for decades. Mr. Abderrahim Chhaibi, for those who don't know him, he is a Moroccan academic and a researcher, and he a researcher in ISGAP. Also, he is a struggler and advocating the human rights and advocating the rights of minorities, especially the Jewish minority in Morocco and in the Arab world. And he is against any anti-Semitism aspects. And Mr. Abderrahim has many of articles and visits to the countries that has Abrahamic agreements, especially with Israel. And Mr. Abderrahim is a peace advocator and coexistent with Israel and with the Arabic countries, and also with peaceful coexistence in Morocco and the Moroccan between the Muslim and Jewish people. And Mr. Abderrahim, the floor is yours. Thank you, my colleague Manal. Thank you for ISGAP for this workshop, which is directed to the Middle East and North Africa. Thank you for Niall, the interpreter, who is going to help us for this workshop into English. And I would like to help him by speaking slowly. So I help him to interpret. Dear colleagues and my friends, our talk today is going about the propaganda is being used from the side of Hamas and Iran after the 7th of October and after the 7th of October attacks in order to have an effect on the Islamic societies and to increase the level of anti-Semitism in the region. This intervention will be divided into four or five phases, depending on the time. So we will talk about some concepts that's being used, and this. We will talk how the Hamas and Islamic groups are using the speech when they are talking and using against anti-Semitism. What do we mean by propaganda? Propaganda means it's an ideology is concerning and aiming to change the situation being used by the totalitarian regimes and that has or that have objectives or hidden objectives. They are using some kind of political manipulation. I mean by that the political manipulation. I mean that is being used by Iran and the Shia people, that they are working on having one main goal and dividing it into small goals, but leading for at the end for one major goal. Hamas, though they are denying that they are derived from Muslim Brotherhood group, the main goal for this group is to restore what's called Islamic Khilafah or the Islamic State. and they are not admitting the minorities or acknowledging the minorities or the human being. And they are against the differences. They are not acknowledging the differences between the people. This movement has one goal, one people, one religion, one state. Everything is one. So the base is to collect all the people in the region, North Africa, Middle East, and inside one state, Islamic state, and trying to restore the Islamic, historical Islamic state. Hamas is working on this track, and their battle, and they are presenting, is against Israel and against Jews, serving this project, because usually there must be an enemy, external enemy, to find these means to work in order to achieve the main goal. So the Muslim Brotherhood usually are working depending on the theory of the conspiracy. Everyone is against the Muslim. Everyone is fighting Muslims and against the nation. So in order to achieve, to force ourselves to combat the enemy, so we have to establish one state, including all the categories in one category, Hamas, and they work on what they are saying and presenting themselves as a Palestinian national movement resisting. That's what they say about him, resisting Israel and resisting Zionism without talking about Judaism. They are trying to hide themselves and stay away from talking about Jews, but they are reflecting this by combating Israel and being in enmity with Zionists. But in fact, they are combating Jews, fighting Jews, and combating Christians, combating religions, everything in order to find place in order to achieve their main goal. They are hiding under what we call the political concealment. If we want to talk and discuss the attacks of the 7th of October, we have to uh, uh, talk about the framework, the historical framework, political framework that has been came with this attack. Usually, it's known that Hamas is using the sentiments of Muslims in order to gain their sympathy and to achieve some goals that will lead to the main goal. So, if we returning back what Hamas was doing before, they are choosing the time and the period that that they are going to do their attacks. So Hamas was doing their activities, extremist activities, at the time of Ramadan. This month, Ramadan is a sacred month, a holy month for Muslims. They are using this month for their worshipping and practicing the ritual, but choosing this month in order to gain sympathy. But what happened at the time of the 7th of October? Hamas has changed its strategy. They didn't do these attacks in Ramadan, though they know before these attacks will have consequences. Well, it will have consequences. So the goal here is to Hamas and for other groups know that Hamas will respond, a suitable response. In fact, each country, whatever respect its people and respect itself, will defend them. They have to defend their people. what Israel has done is coming under the self-defense, and Hamas has chosen the 7th of October. But this choice was not random one, and the framework, what happened at the time of the 7th of October, led Israel to do what they have done, because the 7th of October knew that there is a change in the region against Israel and against the Jews, and will flare up the ideas against anti-Semitism. Because before that time, there was agreements of Abraham, including many countries in the region and Israel. And also there were many military and economic and political agreements between Morocco and Israel, Bahrain and Israel, Emirates and Israel. And some other countries were not included in Abraham agreement, but there was a change in the relationship and the way of thinking. I give you an example. In Morocco, there was a huge change in. We can see this in social media, how the Moroccan think about Israel. Whenever the situation before, under the effect of the propaganda and the educational methodologies, we were talking about Israeli-Arabic conflict or Islamic Jewish disputes according to the context. But after these agreements, we noticed how the people talk about a conflict between Israelis and Israelis. There is no way for Muslim and Muslims. They were not included. So conflict between the Arab and Palestinian. They know what they can achieve from this, but there is they were talking about Gaza, which they were saying Gaza before Gaza. Gaza is a marginalized city in north of Morocco, and Gaza is a city in the Middle East, and where the incident happened. And when the Moroccan talking Gaza before Gaza, so they are talking that the national interest is the main priority, and the major problems has priorities before we talk about the problems of the others. We were before that we were talking about that the Palestinian cause coming before the national cause. But now the talk about Gaza before Gaza, consider the national issues comes first, including the relationship between Israel and Morocco. And it's saying that it started to be acknowledge our national problem, and we're giving them priority more than the Palestinians, who are considered as a hypocrite to us. But it was a logical dialogue. The relationship is between the relation should be with who wants to help you, not who wants to destroy national unity. And that's what we see today, because we have many stories about the Moroccan war prisoners in previous wars against the Polisario and Algeria. The Palestinian leaders were coming to their place, and they were calling them occupiers. They were calling the Moroccan people as animals, and they were calling the Moroccan people as animals. They were threatening the unity of Morocco. After that, when I say, and here I'll give example of Morocco, is the main interest to end this conflict. And if we consider ourselves a part of this conflict, this is not a solution. The Palestinian and the Israelis know about their problems. If we consider ourselves part of the problem, this will not present anything. Just this will not humiliate the Israelis or the Palestinian, but will make the problem more chronic and make our region will be a playground for extremists. They can work in this region as they want. I gave this example about Morocco, and we can take an example of other countries like Emirates and Bahrain. There is a change of the way of thinking. So Hamas, when they felt that the main sentiment in Africa and the Middle East started to give up the support, they thought about two issues, two things: to restore the general feeling and sympathy towards them, and also to present Iran, which is outcasted in the region for religious, for old problems or disputes between Shia and Sunni. And so Iran, which is representing the Shia school of thought, but the rest of countries are Sunni school of thought. So Sunni in Syria has a Shiite minority, and in Lebanon they have, but most of the Arab countries have following the Sunni school of thought. And Hamas wanted to present a service to the a project of Iran, which aiming to control the region and try to eliminate the distance of hatred between Shia and Sunni, in order to ease the control of Iran, political and economic and the social control of Iran to on the region. The two styles of thinking, the Iranian or Hamas, the one of Hamas, is directed to reach the hidden goal they are trying to achieve. We'll go back to the concept and this propaganda. These concepts has a root in the religion. The concept they are using a lot. The flood of Al-Aqsa. Why the flood? The flood. The flood in their religion, in the Quran, in the Holy Quran, or in Torah, or the Old Testament, is related to an incident of Prophet Noah, who was calling the people to believe in Allah or God. When they refused, the punishment was the Tufan, or the flood. So using the concept of Tufan, or the flood has a significance of this matter, especially to have uh, a group of survival and another group will submerge. And so and the Muslims are the one those who are will be on the ship of Hamas and Iran, and those who are miserable will go with Jews and Israel. The whole world will sink, and only the group which will go with Hamas will survive. This is a concept of flood. Al-Aqsa is being represented. Mm, uh, the place where Prophet Muhammad used to go to the heaven. In fact, it is not like this because Al-Aqsa was not built after the Prophet Muhammad with tens of years. And who built it? It was built by Umayyad King Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Why it was built? It was a problem because there were countries that wanted to unify the Muslim country, the state. There were superior. There were many sects in Mecca, and there was a dispute on the power. And the Umayyad, you were not able to send their delegations to pilgrimage in Mecca. So Abdul Malik ibn Marwan had an idea to build the Qubbat Sakhra mosque and the mosque, Al-Aqsa mosque in this place, because this was related to the religion in order to take the eyes of the Muslim away from Mecca and Jerusalem. So, uh, so, so it became. So they are trying to use the Al-Aqsa here is aiming to flare the sentiment of Muslims and they wanted to say that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the first Qibla or direction of prayers for Muslims, and there is no prophet traditions talking about the Al-Masjid, and there is no verse in Quran talking about the Masjid Al-Aqsa. It was mentioned only one time in Quran, without mentioning where it is. Oh, and how, yeah, and how it is exists. So talking about Al-Aqsa, it's aiming to draw the attention and mixing this with a flood, because there are many talking about the day doomsday and what would happen at the doomsday, including the fight between Muslim and Jews and the killing of all Jews to the extent that the Jew will be hiding behind the trees, and the stones will call the Muslims, saying, "Oh Muslim, oh the slave god, this is slave god of Allah. There is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him and kill them. They will be killed. No one will survive except those who are." Be hiding behind a tree of al-ghar called al-gharqad, and this is of the tradition talking about the doomsday events. So talking about the Al-Aqsa and the flood, Aqsa flood. And so this is a start of the fight between Muslim and Jews, and these are the concepts that I liked to convey, and that's what the Hamas tried to convey to the Muslim in order to flare up their sentiments. We go back to the second phase, the relationship of Iran, and was the 7th of October, and you know that Hamas didn't have no um, place as political movement in the region, and for the leaders of the region, how can they find their way from three main countries? First, Qatar, because they are supporting them with money, so they supporting them with money. It was Gaza many times were destroyed because of Hamas, and then Qatar is paying to reconstruct Gaza, and then also Iran, which is giving a support, political support by Hezbollah and by direct connection with the leaders of Hamas and the Iranian regime, and also Turkey, which is working on this, in a pragmatic way, because Turkey has goals which intersect with the goals of Muslims. And Turkey is working here with a pragmatic logic. So when Hamas did what they have done on the 7th of October, they didn't find, except Qatar, with their mechanism, with Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya channel, and Iran, with the support of Hezbollah, which has threatened Israel many times that they will destroy Israel if they didn't do this and that. So the result, after the first period of the 7th of October, you are seeing the reports published by Al Jazeera channel and the Qatari channel, in addition to Al Manar channel, belongs to Al Hezbollah in Lebanon. These reports talking about the victory, the feeling of victory in the first beginning of the collapse of Israel, which they call, according to this propaganda, the house of the scorpion. There is a verse in Quran talking about the weakest house, which is easy to destroy. All these the reports has an impact. The house of Cobweb is the weakest one, and that's what they meant. And these, what we are seeing on social media X for the Middle East and Facebook in North Africa, and we notice, and we find in Morocco, we find Islamic movements talking about the victory and the approach of an end to Israel, and Hamas this time has betrayed Israel, and the Islamic resistance has succeeded, and Israel will not be able to do anything. And this way of talk didn't change until Israel was able to control and defend itself and the people against Hamas. In fact, not only Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood ideology and the Iran ideology, and and the pragmatic, Turkish pragmatic. All this after the 7th of October. All these, what the what has been found with these incidents until Israel started to defend itself. Hamas changed to a new strategy using the children and using the mosques and using this hospital as a human shields, using a hospital, school as a human shield, and their war against Israel. So when Hamas they move toward the schools and hospital and launch their rockets, what do you expect? And by themselves, and they destroy some of infrastructure in Gaza. And in order to depict this, that the Israeli war machines are the one who destroyed this, to gain sympathy and to consider Israel and Jews the origin of the problem. Uh, and when Israel was able to defeat the terrorism was Hamas, between Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, when they were able to kill the mastermind of the 7th of October and the leader of the leaders who was making a lot of propaganda for many years, and many others. They felt, Hamas felt, not the end of Israel, but by its end. So they used another talk or way of talking, depending on the religion, and they consider what happened by Israel is not aiming to Hamas, but all the Muslim and their children and this and that. So what happened after that? That Hamas became trying to end the situation with minimum casualties. They lost their leaders. They lost their leaders, and this talk became like a defeat for Hamas, and try to criminalize Jews and Hamas, and try to saying that those are signed on Abraham Treaty, they have to deny and close their borders and to review their agreements with Israel. Because what happened in the second half of these attacks became is condemning Israel and not Hamas. But in fact, who has started this? We have an example in Morocco or Obama, maybe in North Africa. Those who hate themselves shouldn't blame anyone else. The one who have beaten himself shouldn't blame anyone else. Hamas has beaten itself, and they are trying to control, to describe Israel as a devil, and trying to describe Jews as devils, because their main goal, because the goal was because this came after the last 6 months. So we'll go back to the results of this propaganda. We talk usually talking about Morocco, and we'll try to end this part of my talk. What happened recently? There were many people went to demonstrate to support Hamas. Most of them are belonging to the Islamic trend and or the left wing. And there's a cooperation between the leftists and the Islamists, who are considered the Arab nationalization as a base for their political framework. There were many demonstrations in Rabat and Tantrum. They were using the sentiment. What happened? What happened in the Casablanca when some demonstrators tried to storm the port because there was a ship carrying warheads and weapons to Israel. The state prevented and stopped this demonstration, and they stopped those people from storming the port. The most important thing here is that this demonstrations, which was adopting propaganda coming from Hamas and from the leftists, they couldn't draw the attention of Moroccan people. We go back to give an example. At the beginning of the current millennium, the demonstrations in Casablanca and Dar al-Bayda was coming with the support of the authority, but today the demonstration are not able to collect more than 5,000 demonstrators. And before, the authority was supporting this demonstration. Now there is a change. Now we are talking Gaza before Gaza, and at the end, after the celebrations, the 1st of May, or the Labor Day work in Morocco, this was a chance for the ex Prime Minister, who is part of Al-Adala wa Tanmiya party, who has sharing the same principles of Muslim Brotherhood in Morocco. He had a chance to direct his speech, was able to talk to members of his party. And he talked about this when he said Gaza before Gaza, and he tried to do some kind of comparison to say Gaza has priority more than our issues. Unfortunately, the expression he used is showing hatred, because he described those who have raised the slogan that Gaza before Gaza as donkeys and microbes, and yeah, Ben Kiran, who came after the 20th of February 2011, and after the collapse of Ben Ali and Mubarak in Egypt, and many of the incidents those who benefited from this incident in the region. And he was able to come after all these incidents in the Middle East to preside the government and form a second government for another 5 years. Then, and then he now he has support only of 11 members of the parliament today in Morocco. He used some sentences is considered as defamation, and he described all those who this dialogue is, he brought an opposite effect. There was a hashtag saying that we are supporting Gaza before Gaza, and many of the activists talking about the Moroccan-Israeli relationship and the interests of Morocco is a priority than having a relationship with Hamas. Because United States wants to end this chronic issue and the problem of Gaza and Israel. So our interest with the Israel more than any other country in the Middle East. And because there are many countries is saying to consider us as enmity, many countries consider us as enemies. And they were considered as a threat to our national unity and our sovereignty. So the dialogue today, and still in the social media, they are talking about Gaza before Gaza. So I would like to end my speech here and let the floor for you if you have any question or discussion. You're welcome. We would like to promote our work more. You know, the time is limited, so we want this topic to be a topic of a dialogue, and we want to be like a dialogue more than a lecture. Well, thanks, Mr. Abderrahim, for your speech and all these details that you have used to summarize what happened at the time of 7th of October and what happened after that, and how was the effect of these on the social media and on the media and the channels like Al Jazeera and the Manar and the Iranian role in this issue. My comment about what you said, that there is the Iranian regime has a role, especially with the proxy and the proxies of Iran, like Houthis who are using the same strategy being used by Hamas, and what Hamas is doing, taking the aid, what the Houthis is doing to get the support and aid and collecting and rounding up the civilians as a way to push the civilians to support Hamas. But what I wanted to say, how can we face, especially in the Arabic societies, to this propaganda? Because this propaganda is not clear. Yes, there are channels like Al Jazeera and Al Manar that are publishing fake news, and broadcast fake news to support Hamas. Despite some Arabic countries, the Islamic movement doesn't have the support, but there is a support for Hamas. And despite some Arab countries, the Islamic movements are outcasted, especially in Egypt and Tunisia and many other places in Lebanon and Syria. So how can these movements gain back their strength, though they are outcasted by their regimes? And how the Iranian regime was able to embed itself and has an impact on what's called the elite and the intellectuals, especially of the left wing. Unfortunately, there are campaigns on the social media and in the media, and for the Islamic group, they have a hand. They are able to have an impact on the people. The people are not moving like this, reacting in this way like by themselves. There is ideology. Iran is on the stage. They want to control the people of the region. Thank you for this addition, my colleague Manal. In fact, how can we change the concept and the vision? Because we want only the uh, the the alliance against Israel by changing uh, by developing a method. Yes, so the situation is complex because we need a comprehensive change in the political on the political arena and system and the social system and the ideas and the mentalities, and to rethink again about what we have established for about uh, for about 60 or 70 years at the time of colonization. After the time of colonization, I would like to remind you that we still live the fact of the Cold War and under the effect of the Cold War. We still living the speeches of Nasser al-Assad and Saddam Hussein. We still believe with the conspiracy theories against Islam, against the Muslims. But everyone is working against that. Everyone is against us. We don't have any other uh, goal but to fight us and to break us. The whole, as if we are kings on this land and the other are slaves. This is here is a complexity of the situation. The way that the society is used to think, we we are we dry up the sources of hatred that being used by the extremist group and the terrorist group like Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood in order to do what their role today. Yeah, so our thought should be patriotic. Each country should think about their main interests first. Morocco is Morocco, Tunisia is Tunisia, Egypt is Saudi is Saudi. And we should not talk and we shouldn't think like herds that Morocco is a part of Arab world or Islamic world. These are false nations. We built by there is nothing called Arab world or Islamic world. There are countries. Each country has to think about their supreme goals, their supreme interests. We maybe we have points common interest between Morocco and each countries. So we have our thought coming under these interests. And we talk today about the new Middle East and North Africa. We should adopt this logic that the Iraqi man should think that he's from Iraq, not a Palestinian and not a Syrian. And also to stop and stop what makes a country, the pragmatic countries, that they are trying to control us and our way of thinking. The critical thinking is very important for our citizen in order to be able to deal with the propaganda which is spreading day after day. Al Jazeera found what they want in us because we don't have a critical thinking. Al-Manar found what they want because we don't have a critical thinking help us to understand the reality of the time, and they can understand the emotional stories, but they don't understand what's good for their interest. I hope here that I was able to convey my view, and I hope that you participate with your ideas. Thanks, Mr. Ibrahim. If there's any question or any comment from the followers or any comment, even in the messages, you can send your question to Mr. Ibrahim. I have a comment. As you said, there's a crisis in identity, especially between the left wing, and what the Palestinian wants is to change the Tunisian or Egyptian or to change their identity. As Hassan al-Banna say, the country is a bunch of dust or handful of dust. So there is no identity for each country. He wants to say that there is only one identity for the whole country, which is the Islamic identity. So the identity of Morocco include the Jewish and Barbarian and Muslims. The Islamic identity is not only one. In the Arab countries, there is Jews and the Christians, and in Syria, we had a Kurdish Syrian guest. There are multiple people are living there was many affiliation in these countries, So we cannot depend only on one country. And as I said, the dream of many countries like Turkey and Iran about the having one state. For Turkey, they thinking about the Ottoman Empire again, and for Iran, and unfortunately, as we mentioned in this, what's being meant by the Islamists and the Islamic project in the Middle East and North Africa is uh, to direct themselves against one enemy, which is Israel, and and for America, the enemy is not the Islamists, the Islamic State, not Turkey, not Qatar, not Iran, and unfortunately, there is no critical thinking, and there is no uh, uh, there's a hatred for the West and for Jews, and this is for Syria. This education was focusing on the nationalization and uh, we we have 3 minutes. If we want to end this, we remind we, we remind you that in the next episode we have a very important academic, Dr. Mordechai, who is specializing in the Iranian studies and about the Islamic world. He's going to talk about the role of Iran in the region. We have a question from Hadi. أشكرك على هذا الحديث. Yeah. بشكرك على I will translate this question into Arabic. Well, I think there is a campaign in all the social media and in all media in the Arab world, and also there is a campaign in the academic world, and especially in the U.S. universities. If there's any campaign in the Arab universities and in Morocco itself. Thanks for this question. I am suffering as a professor. I'm suffering. Personally, I've met some kind of being distanted. Some people consider me as someone who is trying to normalize with Israel, and just I don't care. I'm expressing my beliefs and what I want, and this way of expressing their points of view, the students, there are control of the Islamic streams in Morocco and radical groups on the students. The students are demonstrating and using speeches asking them to stop the relationship with Israel and supporting Hamas, and etc. And the professors in their syndicate, I get on daily basis many statements and reports from the professors and their syndicate asking to stop the relationship with Israel, and the praising Hamas and their battles this side. And this is in all the Arab countries, and maybe this can happen in the Arab countries. As we said, we lived for about 70 years after the independence, living the propaganda wants to end the borders and to make us live in one country called the Arab country or the Arab world, and also and and to deny the identity in order to establish a nation. As Hassan al-Banna said, that the state is a handful of dust, but the most important thing is the people. And so they are focusing on the people, not on the land. So this is a propaganda that lasted for 70 years, and it's difficult to destroy these beliefs in a moment. But at the end, as we said, it's not important. The you know, uh, the beliefs of individuals. The most important thing is a change that I can see every day on a social media using the hashtag that I mentioned before, before Gaza, and Gaza, and it. There's similarity between the letters. Make it as an attempt to get rid from the problems that coming from Gaza and cover the problems of Gaza. The problems of the one country is being impacted with the events in Gaza. This change that we noticed, especially the change of the media speech. For example, when we were before the Abraham Treaty, we were listening, hearing about the occupiers, about the Zionists, and all these stuff. These concepts had changed, like the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This is the first time hear about the Israeli state in the Moroccan media, and this can help. And also the social media can give us a good image or picture about the change that the Moroccan people feel at the time being. There is a talk about our Jewish brothers in Morocco. These are the new concepts. It's old but new as well, to focus on the Moroccan Jews. This gives us a lot of hope about what will happen in the region in the future. We still have some pockets of resistance in the Middle East and North Africa. Africa, I think, in Tunisia, and our colleague confirmed something like that. Yeah, Algeria, this big issue. Morocco, there's an enmity in Morocco and anti-Semitism in Morocco, but we are trying to change this in Egypt. There's a change. And my colleague is talking about the attempts to restore back their national identity. And when the Tunisian know that they are Tunisian, and when the Moroccan know that they are Moroccan, then we achieved a lot of goals that can that we still live on the uh, uh, the traces of the Cold War, which ended with the collapse of Berlin Wall. But we still have a lot of walls in the Middle East and North Africa as two fell. The changes that started in 2011 was the beginning of the collapse of some walls and was being used by the Muslim Brotherhood in many countries, aiming to control and impose their control, but they lost their popularity. So today we have to think about the establishing the national identity and restore the national identity during 80 years because of the nationalization ideology and because of the Muslim Brotherhood and what has been done by the previous leaders like Nasser and Hafez al-Assad and Gaddafi and Boumediene and some other leaders who uh, lasted in their power for a long time. I think the idea, I was able to convey my idea. We can exchange emails. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Mr. Abderrahim, for our followers. Our next meeting will be on the 12th of May about the antisemitism. Thanks, and we meet next week. Thank you.